A man came up next to me at a red light while I was waiting. He motioned to me to roll down my window. I was told, "You have a flat tire," by him. After expressing my gratitude to him, I turned right into the Walmart parking lot. After stepping out, I noticed that a screw was lodged in the tire tread, slowly allowing air to escape. What comes next? I made the decision to go inside and get a can of the slime mixture. Upon my return, I took out the screw. Big error. The air began to hiss even more quickly. I went to the nearby petrol station and immediately screwed it back in and grabbed some air. Since I was just 15 miles from home, I intended to continue inspecting the tire. I'd use the slime can if it got too low. I saw the tire was getting pretty low in the driver's side mirror around 5 kilometers from home. There was no air at the convenience shop where I stopped. Time to give the slime a test. When I poured it in, green ooze emerged. At least the hissing stopped, so I guess that's why they call it slime. Just as I was going to get back into my vehicle, I saw a pickup truck arrive. It was one of the really big ones with the enormous tires. It seems like the man was making up for something. That truck was one that I had seen previously. A tall, blond man with a huge belt buckle and cowboy boots emerged as the door opened. I laughed to myself, but it quickly subsided when I noticed the attractive woman with raven hair get out of the passenger side. I recognized her right away. It was Rachel, my 18-year wife. What a surprise. My automobile was parked to the side, so they never even saw it. It was a corporate vehicle, a modest import that lacked any style, I guess. She was laughing at something he said as they entered the store hand in hand. It was akin to taking a hit to the gut. I was unable to move or breathe. I felt stupid as I stood there. Then it dawned on me where I had seen him previously. He and Rachel both worked at the same company. He was a caseworker at the mental health clinic where she oversaw an office. His truck was visible at their office. What Rachel was doing with him was the big question. I eventually knew his name, Jerry Garner. However, why wasn't Rachel working? I was going to find out, I swear. I returned to the car and bided my time. After leaving the store, he carried coffee cups and assisted her into the car. They took off, and I followed them very stealthily. He parked in the garage when they arrived at our place. When the garage door closed, I was unable to see them. I waited for half an hour, but I was restless because of the tire. I continued monitoring it, but I was unable to determine if air was being lost. The garage door opened again 2 hours later, and they drove right by me. I doubt they would have seen me even if I had covered my face with a file folder. They were engrossed in one other so much. Rachel worked till 5 o'clock even though it was only 2:30. I had a lot of time on my hands. I decided to investigate inside first. I didn't know what to say to Toby when I had to pick her up at 4. My 15-year-old daughter was named Toby. I had no idea what I would find inside, but I was hoping for some answers. It was silent inside. The sound of the bathroom tap dripping reached my ears, reminding me that I had a repair to do. The whisper of air coming from the vents was the only other sound. I glanced around, but nothing seemed out of the ordinary. There were new linens on the bed upstairs. My heart fell. I slipped to the floor, leaning against the wall. I experienced numbness. There appeared to be just one plausible explanation. I think I sat there thinking non-stop for 30 minutes. I was unable to organize my ideas. I thought I had been drugged. My stomach roiled, so I reached for a Sprite to calm it down. I went back to the bathroom, feeling hot and sweaty. I searched the vanity for a washcloth, wet it in the sink, and doused my face with cold water. I felt rather revived after doing the dishes. The shower floor was moist, which was an interesting observation I made. After taking a shower, they returned to their jobs. I realized it was the same bed my wife and her lover had just left, as I staggered back into the bedroom and sat in a stupor on the edge. I was horrified when the realization struck me like a ton of bricks. This was the epicenter of it all. I didn't know what to do next. Divorcing Rachel was a given, of course, but beyond that, I had no idea what to do. I had no idea what the judicial system was like. I knew no lawyers, and I still had Toby to pick up from school. What on earth was I going to say to her, Toby? I felt as though I had gone on a 10-day binge as I dragged myself outside to the car. My appearance was awful, and my head was hammering. I couldn't leave Toby waiting even though I wasn't fit to drive. I realized all of a sudden that she was the only constant in my life. I had to make sure my daughter would be all right because she was my rock. I have to make decisions based on what was best for her. She was waiting at the school doors when I saw her in the car queue. She approached the automobile with a radiant attractiveness that made me want to cry. Toby's hair and dark, almost Mediterranean complexion were passed down to her by her mother. Her mother's eyes, which were also deep brown with green and gold striations, were unlike anyone else's. They were certainly special, yet the doctor labeled them hazel. She had long legs, a natural beauty, and was tall, taking after me. She threw her rucksack in the back, got in the car, and bent down to kiss me, but she didn't finish. "Dad, what's up?" she said, her voice laced with worry. "Are you okay? Did something happen? Is Mom all right? What's going on?" "It's okay, darling," I reassured her. "No one's hurt or sick, but I need to talk to you. Toby, let's head to the park and I'll explain everything. Just let me hold you and talk, okay? Hold off on the questions until we're there." She said, "Yeah, Dad, but you're freaking me out." "I know, kitten, but believe me, everything will work out," I comforted her, hoping she wasn't dreaming. We drove to the park in no time at all. I had oftentimes pushed her on the swings. I had sat with Rachel on the benches watching her while she played. It was difficult to resist thinking back on the better days. Would that be the only thing going forward in my life? Only recollections of happier times past? Hand in hand, we walked to a seat and swung our arms in the same way we had since she was a little child and had just learned to walk. I sat down and found it difficult to speak. "Just lay it out, Dad," she pleaded. "I can take it." I said, "I'm not sure I can." But after that, the words just came out. I told her everything, the entire tale and every feeling I was experiencing. Tears streamed down my cheeks. She comforted me by holding my hand through it all. She curled up against me when I eventually ran out of things to say. "That sounds harsh, Dad," she said. "We should head home and talk to Mom. Everything hinges on what she says. It seems bad, but there's still a lot we don't know. We've got to hear her out." Feeling proud, I kissed her on the head. My child has more courage than I ever had. When it was time to leave, she gave me a tug on my hand. I said, "Want to drive?" Her eyes gleamed. Her learner's permit had recently been issued. As she hesitated, a darkness went over her eyes, but it vanished in an instant. Rachel's car was in the garage when she made her cautious way home. It was time to deal with the Melody. She seemed to have done nothing wrong as she gave us hugs and kisses at the door. She asked, "You guys want takeaway tonight?" "It's on me." Toby remarked, "I think we need to talk to you, Mom." She looked worried and said, "Sure. Everything okay?" "I'm not sure," Toby answered. "Let's see." Once inside, I took a seat beside Toby on the couch while Rachel sat in her ugly but beloved chair. She asked, not even flinching, "What's going on?" I inquired, "How was your day?" She glanced at me, perplexed. "As usual," she answered. "Had lunch from the onion bin thanks to a pills rep. It was hectic as always. Why do you ask?" Toby asked. "So you were at the office all day?" "Yes," she answered. "Why all the questions? What's happening?" "So you weren't with Jerry Garner here at the house this afternoon?" I asked. Her complexion went pallid. "No way," she was adamant. "Are you accusing me, Oliver?" "I swear I saw you," I said. She stammered, "What? You didn't see anything?" "What's your angle, Oliver?" "He's lying, Mom," Toby said. "I think you're lying. I won't ask Angel. She'd cover for you. I'll call David Jones. He's your boss, right? I trust he won't cover for you. What's his number?" "He's now gone for the day," Rachel answered. "I'll have him call you tomorrow. What's going on with you two? Trying to trick me? You think you can come here and trip me up? What exactly are you accusing me of?" It appeared that she believed her greatest defense was a potent offense. I told her, "I think you got caught in your own lie." "You lied, Rachel. All three of us know it. Why'd you do that?" She was clearly thinking deeply. "Yes, I was present," she acknowledged. "This is why I didn't want to tell you. I knew you'd grill me and try to pin something on me. No one's pinning anything on you," Toby explained. But I am now. You tried to make me think Dad's a liar. You tried to make him look bad to cover up your lie. What are you hiding, Mom? Are you cheating with that guy? You're not familiar with him, Rachel objected. Toby protested. I've met him twice. Why call him a guy? The way he looks at me creeps me out. But that's not the point. Are you having an affair with him? Rachel looked from one of us to the other, trapped. She admitted, I didn't want it to go like this. Toby pressed, I wasn't. Ready for what? I've fallen for Jerry, she said. She turned to me. I'm sorry, Oliver, it just happened. We worked closely together, you know. He was just, I don't know. He feels like my other half. We clicked and I couldn't stop it. We're in love. I was going to tell you when we were ready. As soon as we both divorce, we'll marry. I'm so sorry. I didn't want you to find out like this. Toby, things will be okay. You'll still see your dad whenever. Jerry has a nice place by the lake. He has a daughter too, you know. He likes you and will be happy, she stated. Are you crazy? Toby yelled almost loudly. I'm not living with that jerk. He might sneak into my room at night. I'll see Dad whenever I want because I'm moving in with him. You're the one I won't be seeing, how could you? After storming upstairs, she closed the door to her room. Rachel gave me a quick look. She said, she'll calm down. Jerry's a good guy, Oliver, you'll see. I need to be happy. Jerry makes me happy, and that's that. I simply gazed at her. Who was she? She seems to have been replaced. I'm not going to argue with someone so unstable. Whatever, Rachel, I responded. When are you leaving? Are you going? She inquired. I'm not. I've got nowhere to go. Jerry's married, and we have to tell his wife before we do anything. We all need divorces and sort out the settlement first. I insisted. No, you're going to leave. You've got 3 days. Her jaw dropped wildly. What are you talking about? You can't kick me out of my own house. If anyone should leave, it's you. I think you're forgetting something, I said. This is my house. I owned it before we met. It was fully paid for and in my name before we even got married. The house isn't a shared asset. It's solely mine. My name is on the deed, not yours. So, no, you're the one who's moving out of my house. She asked, where am I supposed to go? Are you just kicking me to the curb? I don't really care where, I answered. Maybe you could find a room at a motel. Perhaps one of those places you can rent by the hour, you know, where cheaters go. Her eyes filled with tears. Oliver, that hurts so much, she remarked. There's no need for name-calling. I didn't plan to fall for Jerry. It just happened. We connected, and I felt I had to be with him. I didn't mean to hurt you. Oh, so it was an unintentional injury, I shot back. Like tripping and poking your eye out with a stick while running, as Mom always warned. I get it now. Well then, I guess it's all fine since it was an accident. You don't have to be so sarcastic, she replied. Gee, I don't know, Rachel, I remarked cynically. Maybe because this morning you told me you loved me, now you're claiming to love him, Oliver asked. Why can't you accept that Jerry and I are in love? I'm a little perplexed. Oliver, I believe I still love you. I will always love you, she said. Well, that clears things up. You've been telling me for 18 years that you were in love with me, Rachel. I'm just in love with Jerry now. That's why we got married, I reasoned. Looks like I was wrong. No, we were in love, she said, reaching for my hand, but I resisted. Rachel, you have 3 days left. Oliver, please, it doesn't have to be like this. If you're not gone by then, I'll have the sheriff kick you out and throw your stuff in the driveway. She begged, terrified now. We are still able to be friends. Jerry also desires to be your friend. We need to think about Toby. I want to keep you as a friend because I love you so much. I just gazed at her, and all of the grief and sorrow I was feeling began to disappear and be replaced by a scorching wrath. You must be out of your mind, Rachel, I screamed. Friends with you? With that prick? Not in my opinion. Inform him that he should only catch a glimpse of me before he leaves. Regarding you, you are now the adversary. I'm setting your home on fire. I never want to see your dishonest self again. Give me 3 days. I'll call a lawyer in the morning, and you'll get your divorce as fast as possible. I went to the bedroom, leaving her there, making noise. It was just background chatter to me. She followed me around, still going on about being friends while I moved her stuff into the spare bedroom. There were more clothes than I could carry, so I just piled them on her, took an armful to the spare room, and hung them in the closet. She trailed behind me. She lingered for a while, talking and watching me. When she went to hang up the clothes, I took the chance to slip away and lock the bedroom door. I heard her in the hallway trying the knob, then she left. After a few minutes, Toby texted me. "You doing okay, Dad?" "Yes, darling." "You?" "Not yet, but I will be," I answered. "All right," she added. I wrote, "Love you. Text me if you need anything." "Can you pick me up at school in the morning?" she asked. "I don't want to ride with her." "Sure thing." I crawled into bed and lay there for hours trying to sort out what to do. I must have dozed off around 3 and then my phone alarm woke me. I got up, showered, and called my boss. I explained I was getting a divorce and needed a few days off. He was understanding, said to take all the time I needed and express sympathy. I made some coffee, had a couple of cups, and cooked breakfast for Toby and me. She came downstairs right on schedule, looking as lovely as ever, and devoured her breakfast. Rachel eventually came in and grabbed a coffee. She tried to talk to us, but we ignored her. It was time to take Toby to school, and Rachel asked if she was ready. Toby glanced at Rachel, then turned to me and asked, "You ready, Dad?" I jingled the keys and she grabbed her backpack. "Sure, you can act like toddlers if you want," Rachel remarked. She stormed off, grabbed her purse, shot us one more glare, and left. I dropped Toby off at school and she kissed me before heading in. I sat in the car watching her disappear into the building. My mind drifted to my friend Dan, who had recently gone through a divorce. I decided to give him a call and ask about his attorney. Dan didn't recommend his lawyer but suggested I use his wife's attorney instead. He gave me the name, and I found the number. When I called, a woman answered and scheduled me for that afternoon. I took action to protect our finances, like lowering the credit card limits to $1,500. It would cramp my style too, but I wasn't about to fund Rachel's affair. My meeting with Elizabeth Baxter didn't start well. She assumed I was leaving Rachel for someone else. "You've got it wrong," I corrected her. "She's been cheating with a coworker who's also married, and they plan to divorce their spouses and marry each other." "I'm sorry," she said. "I can't represent someone involved in that kind of situation." "I understand," I said in response. "We have a daughter. It goes against my ideals. I wish to shield her from the consequences. Is there a possibility she might come into my custody? It's theoretically possible for either parent to get custody," she said. "However, in practice, fathers, particularly those of girls, rarely receive custody." "What is her age, and is she interested in moving in with you?" "That counts a lot in court," she told me, adding, "She's 15 and she said she wants to be with me." "In our state, kids over 14 can choose, and younger ones' preferences matter too," she inquired. "Considering her age and her wish to stay with you, everything ought to go your way. Just do your best," I said, concluding the conversation. Driving home, I pondered my next steps. I knew I had to act within the law. Getting into trouble could cost me custody of Toby, and I wasn't taking that risk. I needed to plan carefully, considering every option and potential consequence. I suspected Jerry's wife was unaware, like me, so the first move would be informing her. I decided to make a list outlining my strategy. I was definitely going to inform her family. Her parents had always been fond of me and they adored Toby, so I knew it was crucial to let them know first. But I wasn't sure how to approach it. Ensuring that all our friends were aware was also a priority, and I figured I could stir up enough attention on social media to shake things up. That was at the top of my to-do list. Rachel had a Facebook account for our family. I was familiar with it, used Messenger frequently, and knew my way around. After some online searching, I discovered that Jerry's wife had a similar online presence. I took screenshots of some pictures and posted on Rachel's page that we were splitting up and she had found her soulmate in Jerry, along with a photo of him. Then I changed the password and logged out. It felt satisfying. I wondered how long it would take before her friends and family bombarded her phone and Facebook page. I hoped Jerry's wife would get the message. I didn't know her, and I felt a twinge of guilt about the upheaval she would face. But I believed she'd prefer knowing the truth rather than being kept in the dark. I called Mom. The conversation didn't go well as expected, but beyond her initial shock, she assured me she'd tell Dad, and that they were there for me no matter what. I decided to let Rachel handle informing her parents. We had a close relationship, and I didn't want to be the cause of any family rift. Plus, I had no clue how to broach the topic with them. Somehow, "Your daughter is cheating" didn't seem like the right message. They might blame the messenger. Instead, the situation escalated quickly. When I picked up my phone at around 2 p.m., Rachel was enraged and said, "You jerk." Her first words, "You couldn't just leave it alone, could you?" gave me an odd sensation of satisfaction. "I know you locked me out of Facebook," she added. "Take that things out. Jerry's wife doesn't know what to do, and my friends keep calling to find out. Oliver, even my folks are aware. Take it down, I'm telling you." "Well, you don't get to make the decisions," I shot back. "What, like 5 years old? Oliver, take it down. I mean it." "Why ought I to?" I pushed back. "You ought to be ecstatic. In this manner, you and your soulmate might become familiar to everyone. Rachel, are you embarrassed that people know you cheated?" "Oliver, please just take it down." "I'm not." She stopped, seeing how silly it sounded. "It wasn't meant to proceed this way." "You gave up any right to my respect or even basic courtesy the moment you cheated," I told her. "You lost any say in how things go." "I've stated it clearly. Rachel, you are now my adversary. Handle it." After hanging up, my phone immediately buzzed once again, but I disregarded it as it was time to go get Toby. I told Toby what I had discussed with Elizabeth Baxter, and although she was happy that she would probably be with me, she wasn't entirely satisfied. "What's up with her, Dad?" she asked. "I'm concerned about her, but she's never been entirely normal. She didn't ever come across as an adult. Not the same as you anyhow. Her and I are like two of your kids. Have you ever observed that?" "Not like that," I shot back. "She's always been a little impulsive, but that's just the kind of person she is," you stated. "She never did anything like this," which surprised me. "Dad, I never want to be alone in the same house with that weirdo without you there." "Well, we'll just have to deal with it the best we can," she responded. "Please do everything it takes to prevent that from occurring." We stopped for pizza on the way home, and as I was enjoying my second piece, my phone buzzed. It was Bob, Rachel's dad. I told Toby who it was, and she advised putting it on speaker. "I'll do everything I can," I assured her. Time wasn't wasted by Bob. "I don't know what's going on, Oliver, but Rachel came over here last night and asked if she could stay with us." "Would you please elaborate? Have you asked her?" I asked. "She said you ejected her," he answered. "Yes, I did. But did she give a reason?" I shot back. He answered, "No, she said she would later." "Do you really want to hear her side of the story?" I asked. "Why don't you simply tell me?" He applied pressure. "She has been involved in an affair with her coworker, Jerry Garner. He intends to get a divorce from his wife." "She had intended to file for divorce from me, but now they are together," I clarified. "What?" "Oliver, it's unbelievable. How are you aware, I wonder?" he asked. "I caught them together yesterday," I said, "and she confirmed it." "Are you certain there isn't a miscommunication?" He didn't give up. And Toby added, "Hey, Grandpa, I have been paying attention. You're on speaker duty, Dad. Nothing is misunderstood. The moment she told him I was there." "Grandpa, I apologize." He heard her broken voice. "I love you." His voice was tense when he spoke again. "Don't cry, dear. Please don't weaken. You are very loved by Grandma and me. I'll make an effort to reason with your mother. Oliver, are you still there?" "Yes, Bob, I apologize. You two are Toby's grandparents, and that will always be the case, so don't worry about her. I'm confident you'll take the necessary action since you care about Rachel. There are not enough words to describe how much I admire you." I comforted him. "I hope you won't hold any hard emotions against me once this is all over." He told me, "That's not going to happen. I'll find out what's going on. Give me a call if you need anything. It went better than I had anticipated. Life throws curveballs, and you just have to deal with them. I won't go into the specifics of the divorce. Most people are aware of the experience. It was drawn out, painful, and it didn't get any easier. Rachel appeared to have irrational expectations. She believed she would get custody of Toby, but that didn't happen. Miss Baxter proved to be highly competent. Toby's wish to live with me allowed me to be granted full custody. Following a private meeting with Toby, the judge decided that Rachel could have visitation rights, but not unsupervised time with Toby and Jerry Garner. However, that decision was quickly superseded. His wife filed for divorce, and it turned out that they weren't soulmates. It took 7 months for the divorce to be finalized. Rachel changed her mind, and I was taken aback when, during our second court appearance, she requested counseling. The judge ordered it, and neither Miss Baxter nor I could change her mind. We were assigned 8 to 10 sessions, with the first one being with this strange old hippie guy. Rachel's goals were a long, tangled mess. It seemed that the world revolved around her happiness, and that she didn't mean any harm. She just wanted to be happy. Was much simpler. "Mr. Baran, what are your goals for these sessions?" he inquired. "All I want is for them to end," I answered. "Mr. Our guide scowled. "Baran, don't you want to talk about the problems that caused your marriage to fail?" "I apologize, Mr. Rodman, but those problems weren't mine, and I have no desire to deal with them," I answered. "I'm happy with who I am, warts and all." Both Mr. Guru and Rachel appeared equally surprised by my answer. "You won't even discuss this, so how can we proceed?" Rachel made a demand. "Let me be clear, I don't care about going back to how things were or fixing anything," I firmly stated. "We're not going back. Only because the court ordered me here. After that's finished, we'll divorce officially. That's how I want it to go. Do you know that you can be found in contempt if I inform the judge you're not cooperating?" "Beware," Mr. Spirit Guide said. "I didn't know that," I answered. "Are you saying that you would tell the judge lies? These conversations are captured on tape. My attorney has the ability to subpoena the tapes and reveal your deceit. I'm carrying out your requests here." He appeared ashamed. "You asked what my goals are, and I told you. So I am cooperating," he said. "The judge probably expected you to try resolving your issues," he said. "I'm not responsible for the judge's expectations," I explained. "I'm only accountable for mine." He made things difficult for me. He assigned schoolwork that required me to spend a lot of time with Rachel, who made a concerted effort to exhaust me. "What would it take for you to decide to settle your differences and end the divorce, may I ask?" she inquired. "A divine act," I retorted. She waited for me to go into further detail, but I said nothing. "By an act of God, what do you mean?" she insisted. I said, "Well, nothing will change until you can go back in time and undo your affair with Jerry. I've heard of no one else having that power but God. Apart from your ability to entice men with your attractiveness, have you acquired any other abilities, Rachel?" When the boring drills and pointless discussions eventually ended, we went back to court, and the magistrate asked if we had made any headway. Elizabeth Baxter said, "Your Honor, my client has no intention of staying married to his wife. We request that this divorce be finalized as soon as possible." This process has been endured for long enough by my client and his daughter. The judge must have agreed because 10 days later the divorce decree showed up in the mail. Toby mostly hung out with her friends, especially Sabrina, who practically lived with us, and her mother, who enjoyed spending time with her grandparents. Rachel made plans with Toby from time to time, but their relationship was different. We had a boat, so we frequently spent Saturdays at neighboring lakes. Sabrina was sweet and lovely, and I loved having her around. They began involving me in their activities, and one of their favorites was water skiing. One Monday during summer vacation, they asked if we could spend the weekend at the lake in our RV, which I thought was a great idea because I didn't have many plans. After planning all week, Toby and Sabrina packed everything they would need. On Thursday afternoon, Friday, a new red Jeep Cherokee pulled into our driveway, and Sabrina got out. A woman who looked almost exactly like Sabrina emerged from the driver's side, and Toby ran to give her a hug. He then introduced her to me, saying, "Dad, this is Julie." Julie held out her hand and said, "Hey Oliver, the The girls have talked a lot about you. She's Sabrina's mum, and I know you haven't met her yet. I appreciate you bringing me along this weekend. To be honest, I've felt a little jealous. My knees wobbled, and I knew it was time to give in. The wobbling got worse when I looked at Sabrina, and she raised an eyebrow. They spend so much time with you instead of me, she said with a mischievous smile, and I knew immediately why her daughter was so endearing. Regaining my voice, I informed Julie, "It's going to be fun, we always have a blast." She quickly picked up on it, looking from me to the girls and back again. "Oh my God," she said. "You didn't know, did you, girls?" Before she could say anything more, she was showered with kisses and hugs and was told to calm down, Mom. "She's okay, Julie, we're going to have a great time," Sabrina told her. Toby said, "Dad is awesome, and he'll like you as much as I do. Notice how he's complying with it? Go sit on the porch, you two," she said, untangling herself from the females and evaluating them. She said, "I need to talk to Oliver." They resisted at first, but eventually they obeyed and raced away. "Oliver, I sincerely apologize. I'm taking Sabs and heading out, I had no idea," she apologized. "She has a month to stay grounded. She looks small and ashamed, so I moved up to give her a hug. She tensed at first, but then relaxed. This is so embarrassing," she said. "Yes, it is embarrassing," I concurred. "They are mischievous, but not dangerous." She looked up at me and laughed. "Let me guess. Yes, you're not married." She was very cute. "No, I'm not." "You believe that's the main purpose of this?" I answered back. "This is the situation. Everything is ready for you. The weekend was over. Lake will be fantastic. I'm not a villain. You've observed it when Toby is present. All right, let's proceed. Enjoyable, and who knows, we might even take them by surprise. How would you respond?" She took a step back, looked at the girls who were waiting impatiently, and said, "Yes, let's do it." I gave them a thumbs up, and they leaped to join us, yelling, "Yeah," as she emerged, and I stopped them, grabbing one girl under each arm. "Ladies, that wasn't cool," I corrected, and we all burst out laughing. They were simply too cute and innocent, and Sabrina looked up at me and chuckled her best Skeletor impression. "I am not nice." I gave a mild reprimand, saying, "You know what you're up to. Cut it out. You just can't go interfering with other people's life." "But I wanted you to meet Jules and I love her," Toby said. She appeared a little disappointed. "Well, you could have just told me," I thought to myself. "Kitten, don't worry. Just don't pull this trick again," I comforted her. And Sabs tugged at my arm as her face brightened once again. "Leave now, please. I'm thrilled." Julie laughed and said, "I think that's supposed to mean really cool, Oliver, but she's right. This is going to be awesome, Oliver, just wait. We're squandering our daylight." After grabbing 2 bags from her Jeep and getting into the boat, we made a brief stop for propane and continued on our way. After a half-hour drive to the lake, where Julie was seated up front with me, the girls put on some terrible music on their Bluetooth and we got to know one another. Julie turned out to be an insurance company owner and financial planner. I stole glances at her during our conversation because, well, she was cute and I thought Sabs would look like her mom when she grew up. Julie was only 3 years my junior, but she seemed much younger, standing at around 5'7", with light blonde hair that hung down to her lower back and a lovely tan. She had the ideal appearance with her large brown eyes, high cheekbones, heart-shaped face with a broad forehead and a widow's peak. Her petite frame was emphasized by the button-up top and pants she wore. I waited until we got to the lake to take a closer look at her since I didn't want to stare at her. We found a place to leave the RV and the boat parked. I took care of hooking up the water while they changed and they kicked me out. When they were prepared, I went inside, changed into a t-shirt and swim trunks, and we were ready to go. Carrying a cooler full of beverages, we departed from the no-wake area. I accelerated my pace. The girls were excited to go skiing after we cruised down the lake for a few miles. They take off their long t-shirts and display their typical endearing shyness. Julie, though, was exceptional. She wasn't uncomfortable at all. She was incredibly small even though I had mentioned she was slim. Her form was feminine. I watched in awe as she turned to see the girls. Her bikini was barely covering an outstanding rear end, so it wasn't particularly stylish. It was hard, spherical, tiny, and protruded like a shelf. She just winked and grinned when she saw me staring. Despite her petite breasts, she thought they looked great on her. They appeared flawless. They didn't appear tiny. She was like a miniature version of perfection in every way. She asked, her smile softening, "Finished?" The instant. She also had flawless teeth. "For now," I laughed. "Julie, you aware of your appearance? I'm a male." We spent 3 hours water skiing, and Julie was very skilled. She took the wheel when it was my turn, and she was good at that too. I wasn't as skilled as either of the girls, but I managed to get by because the physics just wasn't working in my favor. She stepped closer to me, finding a spot to chat while watching the girls. They changed into wraps when we got back to the campground. The girls insisted on cooking outside, even though the RV had a perfectly good stove. We set up the camp stove, and I lit a fire in the site's grill while I grilled bratwursts. They chopped and fried potatoes and onions and opened cans of pork and beans. We had cooked a few meals at home, but this was our first night. Camp cooking always tastes so good. We sat at the campground's picnic table, and it seemed like we had known each other. Jules, as the girls nicknamed her, liked it, and she called me Ollie. The girls kept bringing up Jules's single status, so I finally asked her why. "I mean, you're gorgeous, witty, intelligent, and you run your own company. Why haven't you been completely enamored with someone?" After pausing for a while, she finally remarked, "Well, Sabrina is the main reason. I was young and foolish, Ollie. I discovered I was pregnant a week before I was set to graduate from college as a senior. I believed I had found the love of my life at the time. We had discussed getting married as soon as we graduated. You're discussing it in the past tense, so I presume that idea didn't work out," I said. "No, it didn't. After informing Brad, I found out that he had been unfaithful to me for a month 3 days later. I broke up with him and didn't look back. Being a mum took up all of my time when Sabs was born. After that, I focused on growing my company. Before I could even think about dating again, I understood that she was this amazing gift from God in my life, and I had to take her into consideration whenever I made decisions." "I do understand," I replied, expressing my sentiments regarding Toby. "She is my priority as long as I have her. She is so important to me that I cannot express how much. Over the past 18 months, she has been the one who has kept me sane." Julie put a tiny hand on my arm and said, "I know. She shares everything with Sabs and me." "Ollie, I apologize so much. Yes, life can be difficult at times." We both looked up as we spoke. We saw 2 sets of loving eyes fixed on us as they sat in their camp chairs under the awning's shade, having a peaceful chat. "I love your daughter," I said. "It feels like she's almost a part of me with all the time she spends with us." Julie said, "She loves you too. The other day she told me you're like the father she never had." A tear trickled down Julie's cheek, and I gently dabbed it away with my finger. "She's such a wonderful girl," I said. "Her mother must be very special to have raised her." Julie rose up, kissed my cheek, and walked to join the girls, grinning through her tears. "She's really brave to be doing it all by herself." We had such a great weekend. I went up to Julie's car and rapped on the window, saying, "Jules, would you think about going out with me right now? Friday of next week?" Julie grinned, and Sabrina let out a cry of delight as I asked, "What time is it? Possibly 6? I propose that we go out to supper and then do something else. Sounds good?" "Well, and while we're out, might Toby hang out with Sabs?" I inquired. She kissed my cheek and said, "Sounds perfect, of course," before driving off. Well, Toby was at the door waiting for me. With much curiosity, she asked, "Did you ask her out? Have you given her a kiss?" I laughed and gave her a hug before giving her a playful bottom smack. "Yes, I did, and that's for me to know and for you to stop prying into," I said. Echoing Sabrina's earlier excitement, she exclaimed with delight, "I knew it, Dad. She's ideal for you. Sabs is like a sister to me, and I adore her." "Whatever happens, happens, Toby," I shrugged. "It cannot be forced. Give up trying to arrange marriages." "I know, Dad, but you probably wouldn't have made a move if I hadn't prodded things along." She nuzzled into my chest. "I don't mind if I'm the only woman in your life. You'll always have a certain space in my heart that no one else can touch." I laughed. You're my baby, and that will always be the case, she mused happily for a brief while before leaving to pursue her own interests. Our first date went well. I took her to play racquetball. She had never played tennis before, but she quickly picked up the similar strokes. Once she understood the rules and started bouncing the ball off the walls, she was impressive. Her natural athleticism gave her an advantage. Her small frame allowed her to change direction quickly. We cooled off at a table outside the courts after our game, drinking and relaxing, and she pulled out her phone. "Let's snap the kids," she proposed, and we stood with our rackets and goggles. She snapped, and the kids responded right away, capturing a wonderful moment. After showering, I took her out for dinner, and we thoroughly enjoyed our delicious Italian meal. After we finished our wine, Jules sat next to me in the booth and we relaxed and chatted quietly. It felt right to wrap my arm around her, so I did, and she leaned closer to me, smiling warmly. She was so damn cute. I couldn't help but think that she would always be cute as she grew older. It was something she would always have. When we got to her house, she leaned in close to me, her eyes full of anticipation, and I could tell she wanted me to kiss her, so I did. It was a lingering, delicious kiss, the kind where you taste wine and cherry chapstick mixed together. And as we drew apart, I saw movement beyond the curtains. To be honest, I wanted to kiss her more than she did. She giggled, sounding a lot like her kid, and I said, "Looks like we've got an audience. I'm not surprised." "Don't you think they're attempting to set us up?" I asked. "Is that upsetting you?" She flushed. I said, "No, I like everything I've learned about you, Ollie," in response. "We should head inside before they open the curtains and see us." We went out every Friday for 4 months in a row, and we got closer every time. I didn't want to rush her. I wanted to take our relationship to the next level. As the chat came to a finish, it became more personal and hinted at a deeper connection than just friendship. I came to appreciate having her as a close friend, as well as my girlfriend. Throughout the day, we exchanged phone calls, texts, and photos with one another. Every time I saw something amusing or thought-provoking, Jules was the first person I thought of, and I had to tell her about it. We grew closer and learned more about one another's personal lives. We started eating supper together every Tuesday as a weekly ritual, and it quickly became loved. We would hang together and play games, and I began to like Sabs almost as much as her mother. They were so identical to each other that it was simple to identify one from the other. Despite their differences, they were equally endearing, and these variances served to emphasize their shared qualities. All in all, life was nice. But Rachel's constant presence was still a constant source of irritation. She would always be a part of Toby's life, which meant mine would follow. She always managed to annoy me, and I wanted nothing to do with her. She tried to start a conversation every time she came over to pick up Toby, or when I left her off at her grandparents'. She continued to live with them despite working at a different clinic across town after she and Jerry lost their jobs at the clinic. I used to lightly bring up Jerry with Rachel when she started to irritate me. It was one of those times when she questioned, "How long until you forgive me?" I shot back, "Forgive you for what? Last I checked, you don't even think you did anything wrong. Not once have I heard, 'I'm sorry, Oliver, I was wrong.' I'm sorry I tried to make Toby think you were a liar. I'm sorry I attempted to take her away from you, tried to screw you over in the divorce, and worst of all, I've never heard, 'I'm sorry I cheated and slept with that scumbag behind your back.'" I still didn't hear it then. She refused to take responsibility for her actions. I wasn't sure what forgiving her would even mean. I accepted the circumstances and went on. I wasn't going to waste time being resentful over it, even if I didn't forget. Individuals make foolish decisions. You have to accept it and move on when they decide to break up with you, divorce you, or discontinue a friendship. Horrible things occur daily. I wanted to penalize both of the cheats right away, but I quickly realized that they were just being themselves. They were stuck with what they had done. I wanted to live my life to the fullest, which meant letting go of deceit and lying and concentrating on being the best version of myself. I had no personal grudge towards Jerry, but even though it was obvious that Rachel was unhappy, I wasn't willing to take the retribution. Let the universe or God take care of it. I had had enough of that game. Her misery increased upon learning that I was seeing Jules. I heard you're dating the mother of one of Toby's friends, Rachel said to me one evening after I left Toby off at her grandparents' house. I just looked at her. She asked, "Is it true?" "It concerns me," I answered. "The heck it is," she retorted. "I'm your spouse. I deserve to be informed." "You've got nothing," I shot back. "You're not my spouse anymore. You found your true love, and it wasn't me, remember? Then we got divorced. My affairs are no longer your concern, and yours are none of mine. Back off, Rachel. Stay out of my business." I walked out angry. She was unable to let it go, man. I told Toby everything that had happened, and she shared my rage. I no longer dropped Toby off at her grandparents' house, and Rachel no longer picked her up from our house after that. Rather, the grandparents, Bob or Cindy, visited our home to retrieve her. That significantly reduced the tension in my life. I took Jules out on the 7th-month anniversary of our excursion to the lake. After dining at a lovely restaurant, we headed to a club. Jules didn't drink much. Occasionally she might have one beer or cocktail. But on that particular night she had two. When she ordered the second, I arched an eyebrow. "Yep, feeling wild and crazy tonight, huh?" I comforted her. "You're perfect, just like always." She asked with a frequent tilt of her head to the side. "Do you really think so, Ollie?" "Because I think you're pretty perfect too." She chuckled when I said, "If I'm so perfect, why haven't you asked me to stay over?" I must have appeared astonished. "Have you even thought about it?" I regained my composure. Yeah, Jules. I've thought of little else since that first day on the boat when I saw you in that bikini. When we started dating, I realized you were something different, something special, and I didn't want to pressure you or scare you off." She reassured, "You won't scare me away." I told the girls not to wait up. I said, "Really? Well, why are we still here?" "More than everything, Wood. You rather spend the night with me right now?" "Oh my goodness, Ollie, let's leave this place." As we drove into the garage, I led her to the bedroom and she stayed by my side. I turned her around at the foot of the bed and kissed her, and it was one of the best kisses I'd ever had. It seemed to last forever. When we stopped to catch our breath, she looked up at me, and I was lost in the warm brown depths of her eyes. She practically melted into me as we drove home, leaning her head on my shoulder and gripping my arm the entire way home. She muttered, "Make love to me, Oliver. I'm kind of scared." "Don't be, Julie Barnes. I love you," I comforted her. "I assume you are aware of that." "I needed to hear it, but I thought so," she muttered. "Oliver, I love you too." I positioned myself above her, being careful not to place undue pressure on her. "How often do you perform this?" I mumbled something in her ear. We fell asleep in one another's arms and made love again twice during the night, once when I started it and once when she did. "3," she said, "but never like this." I laid on my back the following morning, her half spread out over me, her hair falling over us, her cheek resting on my shoulder. And I just watched her sleep, toying with her hair idly till she opened her eyes. With a deeper embrace, she said, "It feels like I belong here, Ollie." "I understand," I replied. "How about waking up here every morning?" She stared at me when she opened her eyes. "You mean like share a home, may I ask?" she inquired. "Yes, but will you marry me, Julie Barnes? No, sweetheart?" She wiggled her fingers and put her little left hand between our faces. "Oh," she responded. "Something seems to be missing." I said, "Hold that thought," as I started to get out of bed. "I am able to hold the thought," she remarked, "but not something else." I laughed and smacked her butt roughly, causing her to squeal, "I need to pee so bad." "Go then, meet me back here." She raced off, looking a little naive, and I made my way to my office, stopping along the way to get what I needed from my safe. When I got back, she was curled up under the covers, so I crawled in and held her left hand once more, gazing into her loving eyes. "Will you marry me, Julie?" We'd have to resize it because it was too big, but it would work for now, so I put the ring onto her finger. After giving it a close inspection, she declared, "It's beautiful. It looks old. From whence did you obtain it? When was it? Delivered to you?" "Recall that I told you about attending an auction? That was about a month ago," I remarked. Yes, I do recall. It was an estate auction, right? Yes. I went to the catalog with the idea of purchasing this ring and proposing to you, but I didn't tell you that. It was manufactured for the Duchess of Avon in England in 1810. Its past is extensive. Are you fond of it? I love it, she replied. It's the prettiest ring I've ever laid eyes on. Will you respond to my query? I inquired. What? Yes, indeed. Yes, Oliver, I will wed you. Yes, dear God. We need to snap the girls, my fiancé stated as I laughed and gave her a hard hug.